The Bored No More Network.
Music kicked my ass.
This picture here, these two amazing individuals.
We have orders coming through for Youth the Apocalypse, and so we have a little shipping station in our 22-foot camper, and every day we're taking trips to the USPS to ship books, so we're doing it ourselves. For the Orthodox Word, for the book Northern Thebite, they were hand printing these books. They were translating them into English at a time when no one really cared. I mean, they were pioneers in bringing Orthodoxy to the American people, 100%.
Father Seraphim built his hut by hand, and you did as well when you were in Alaska, and the life of being a monk and the DIY aspect of it.
We didn't have any access to hardware, so I had to invent a doorknob. So talk about do-it-yourself. I don't believe in the idea of accepting God's will. I think that that's not an accurate way to describe it. Accepting God's will is a reluctance. We went to Sun Recording Studio, but Sam Phillips was a massive do-it-yourself pioneer in the music industry. You know who that is, right? Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, Elvis, and Perkins. There's a great story behind Sam Phillips and the invention.
On Dear Friends, Mano here. You're about to watch a segment from last week's SOS Radio. We had Justin Marler pop in. It was a fantastic and amazing conversation, but you're about to check it out, so I won't tell you about that. But I will say this. If you've never checked out SOS Radio, Sunday nights we do SOS Radio. It's like an old school radio show. We play a lot of different genres, and there's an Orthodox Christian perspective to a lot of the things that we present. The chats are real cool. Everyone's pretty awesome in there. We kind of look at it as like coffee hour after coffee hour type thing. Anyways, you get a lot, like some music history too along the way. Make sure to watch the full live stream. It's back up, so you gotta check that out. Seriously, it's really great. Justin Marler, awesome. Anyways, check out the clip. Hope you enjoy it. With the Big Bird.
I'll say it again. For me personally, I don't think music is the end all for everybody. But I'll tell you this, music kicked my ass. And I intend to return the favor. That's just the truth.
Hello, Justin. How are you, sir?
Very good. How are you?
Pretty good. A little shaky start, but good.
Thanks for letting me pop in here.
Oh, no, thanks for doing it. Greatly appreciate it. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day. You said, where are you right now?
I'm in the mountains of Tennessee. I'm at Loretta Lynn's ranch.
What? The Loretta Lynn?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. My wife and I took the RV up here to go to a priest's funeral in Chattanooga, and we're now in Tennessee. We're going to head into Nashville tomorrow.
Wow. Okay. I didn't expect for you to start the show off that way. That's pretty cool. And so we're just going to jump right into a conversation. How do you feel about that?
I've got some pretty good bombs for you today, I think, on the do-it-yourself front, the DIY front. Yep.
Okay. Well, kick it off. Let's talk about that DIY, the importance to you, and the importance of this picture here. These two amazing individuals. So I'm going to leave it to you. Go for it, my dear brother.
Well, my dad raised me, and he said, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And that piece of wisdom stuck with me for the rest of my life. And obviously that's what we're doing now. My wife and I are in this RV traveling through Tennessee, and we have orders coming through for Youth the Apocalypse. And so we have a little shipping station in our 22-foot camper. And every day we're taking trips to the USPS to ship books. So we're doing it ourselves.
Wow. That's the legit DIY. That's great. That's awesome. How does that feel?
Well, number one, being in control is always better than letting other people be in control, because you can determine the outcome and you can ensure quality, or, it comes out the way you want it to be. So do it yourself has always been that, truly. When it comes to those two gentlemen you put up there on the screen, I knew one of them and I didn't know the other. Mm-hmm. I didn't know Father Seraphim Rose, but I was in his wake. And when I first went up there and saw the printing room where they would hand set type every letter by letter for each page for the Orthodox Word, for the book Northern Thebite, which is a full book. And they had these huge presses, these cast iron and steel presses. They were hand printing these books. They were translating them into English at a time when no one really cared. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This was way before English speaking people really cared about Orthodoxy. And the few that did, they were serving them. And that grew into what it became later, with them publishing more books after Father Seraphim Rose died. And now it's what it is now, which is, I mean, they were pioneers in bringing Orthodoxy to the American people 100%.
You were telling me a story once when we were talking how they were taking each individual letter and putting it into the press, like super time consuming, super DIY.
Well, not only that, but they had to proof everything in reverse.
Okay.
Every page had to not have any errors. It's not like now where you can use a computer program to copy and paste and spell check. Honestly, it sounds painstaking and brutal, and they did it out of love, you know? And so, yeah, they were setting every single piece of type. There was also, when I first showed up there and learned this whole story and became a novice and was living there, I was astonished to find that their print room, their press room, was actually a storage room. There were boxes everywhere. It was dusty. And I asked if I could convert it into a museum because I found so much value in it because of my own personal love for the concept of do-it-yourself and what they did. Mm-hmm. And so we made it into a museum. And while I was going through everything, I was finding boxes of plates, these etched plates that they were using for the graphics for these publications. And they were all in reverse, and they had to send these things away to have them etched by hand and then have them sent back. And then they would hand place all these in these boxes with all the type. The terms leading and kerning, all that stuff comes from the spacing that you would have to think through when you were doing these hand prints. It was unbelievable.
Wow, that is, I didn't think about that. It's kind of like back in the, not to compare it exactly, but kind of like when you used to use a typewriter, there was no backspace, there was no erase. And in this case, it's even more so because you have to make each plate by hand. That's crazy.
Unbelievable. Truly a work of art. And I'm lucky to have one copy of Northern Thebaid that was, done by Father Seraphim and his friend. And it's in perfect condition. You can't find them, I don't believe, anymore. I mean, they're just gone, Mm-hmm. And when I open that thing, you can smell the ink. It doesn't smell like ink today. It smells different. The paper smells different. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, that must have been quite the sight. And even having that's awesome. That's incredible because you have like a piece of history in your hand. And also, well, it's connected to Father Seraphim Rose, which is,
I view it like a relic, honestly.
Right. Yeah. That is incredible.
Yeah.
Also, the life of a monk is pretty DIY. Right down from like having to fend for yourself on every level, from food to your shelter. I believe Father Seraphim built his hut by his own hands, and you did as well when you were in Alaska. Talk a little bit about that and the life of being a monk and the DIY aspect of it.
Yeah, when I was in Alaska, luckily I was brought to Alaska by who's now Bishop Gerasim in Dallas, and he was then a monk, and he brought me up there and showed me the ropes, how to survive on this deserted end of this island in the middle of nowhere. And the whole commission was to build on the end of this island, and so we didn't have money, we didn't have Lowe's or Home Depot. None of that stuff was there. So he was showing me how to capture logs out of the ocean, bring them on land, and hand saw them with a chainsaw to make lumber. I mean, talk about do it yourself. Wow. I mean, it was astonishingly difficult. We were dragging lumber and logs through the woods and debarking them. And we used these primitive tools to move the logs around by hand. Mm-hmm. It was pretty, pretty intense. One of the do-it-yourself stories that I've got is that I was supposed to make a door for the main cabin, and these cabins were like shacks in the middle of nowhere. Very similar to Father Seraphim's in that picture there. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have doorknobs. We didn't have any access to hardware, so I had to invent a doorknob. So talk about do-it-yourself. Okay. I created this door with two pieces of plywood and then a strip in between that created a hollow space in between, and I whittled a latch that was a slide latch with these two little track systems inside the door, so I could slide the latch and lock the door to keep the bears out, Okay. The problem is my engineering wasn't so amazing because when it rained, the wood swelled and we got stuck inside the cabin for a while. So I had to figure out how to break out of the cabin and push through one of the plexiglass windows to get out, to figure it out. So we whittled it down more and figured out the engineering. So yeah, that's pretty much do-it-yourself right there.
Oh yeah, I don't think you can get any more do-it-yourself than any of that stuff you just said right there. What about the aspect of like dealing with that the first little while where you're out there alone in Alaska? Is there would you say that, is there a DIY aspect to dealing with that aspect of it, being alone in your own cabin with your own thoughts, trying to connect with God and all of that?
Yeah. So I had already spent a year and a half, 2 years in the monastery in Northern California, but I wasn't isolated like that. So when I first landed there, the first month was like romantic and beautiful and amazing. And I'm watching bald eagles fly by and everything. And after 2 months, then the winter starts coming in. And then I start realizing, oh my gosh, I'm stuck with myself. And, I was at the time, I think 21, 22 years old, I'd accumulated a lot of stuff inside of me from just my childhood and everything. And so all this stuff surfaced and there's nowhere really to run from it. After about 6 to 8 months, I would see airplanes fly overhead and I was praying that God would, like in Star Trek, teleport me into the plane to get me out of there because it was really, really hard. It was painful.
Yeah.
After I clocked 1 year, I felt free of that. I felt like I don't know what it was, God's grace, or, that's probably what it was, but I felt free of that. And it actually was okay. And the lifestyle, the difficulty of it became a challenge, something that I kind of enjoyed. And then the interior stuff quieted down. There were people that came and go during that period where they would lose their mind a little bit and they'd wanted to get out of there, and we'd get them back to town because it's not an easy task to face yourself in such a remote place with such a difficult lifestyle. I mean, it was really tough.
Yeah, and I would imagine someone, not in your case in that situation, but I've heard of other people being isolated without having faith in God, without that connection, and you will go nuts. Anyone, but if you do have that connection, and I think that's the point, I guess.
To be fair, I do have to clarify something.
Sure.
My wife's really good at pointing this out, and she's totally right. I could never pull that off now. I'm too much of a baby.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, you did come back to all of this. So, I mean, of course, it's going to be hard to ever go back to something like that. It's pretty, well, man, and not many people have done what you've done anyway. So, I mean, even to attempt that, it's pretty cool. But it seems from hearing your story, reading about it and all that, it's kind of, you had to do that. It was either that or death, if I could say it so blunt.
True.
So I mean, it is what. Okay, so one last question, and that kind of leads into from there to where I wanted to go, if it's okay with you. I think there's only once I've ever heard you speak where I've disagreed with you. Only once. Don't worry, we're not getting controversial. and it's the first thing you say in this next clip. I'd like for Manny to play this clip, and I'd like to talk about it after. Just the way you introduce it, I disagree with you. It's a very important spiritual story. Manny, hit play, please.
A story in the monastery. This is not a very spectacular spiritual story, but it's funny. Another brother and I were supposed to take onions to the nuns on the other side of the island, and it was a blizzard. And it was a stupid idea. Okay, we're gonna take a sack of onions in the middle of a blizzard, and it was winterish, so there wasn't a whole lot of light. And we're walking through the forest, me and this other brother, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's other footprints out here. There's other people lost out here. Keep walking, we see another set of footprints, and I was like, that's our footprints. We're not walking in a straight line. We're totally lost. And you could hear the buoys out in the water, gung, 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 and they would get quieter as we walk. I'm like, I have no idea where I'm at. This isn't 12-mile island or something like that. 10-mile stretch that we're supposed to walk to get to the nuns. I think it's about 10 miles. And the sun's going down. Well, it didn't even come up in Alaska. It doesn't come up. It went up a little bit and went back down. And this other brother and I cross a frozen lake, and we could hear the water cracking underneath, the ice cracking. And I looked back at the other monk, and his face is purple, his beard is icicles. I probably looked the same way. And we were looking at each other like, if the ice breaks, just keep walking and praying. We were just walking and praying. We sat at the base of a tree, and we basically were talking about, we're probably not gonna make it tonight. No one makes it in a blizzard in the middle of Alaska in the winter. It just doesn't happen. And so we sat there with the bag of onions, put it on the side of the tree. We sat in the snow, and I was moving my foot around, and I saw that there was water from that lake. And I saw salmon under the water. I could see the fish. I could see the direction of the water flowing. And I was like, St. Herman just saved us. Because that's where St. Herman of Alaska was. He fished in those very same streams. He saved us by showing us those fish. And we followed that stream all the way back to the cabin, pitch black. Walk in the maid cabin, and the old monk in there, he's like, "What are you guys doing? Where have you been?" And we're like, "Dude, give me a fireplace. We'll tell you the whole thing." I mean, we really said the prayer. God, forgive me all my sins. I want to be at peace as I transition right now. And then this.
The part that I disagreed with, I think you said something along the lines, this isn't a very deep spiritual story or something funny, something like that. I think that the reason why I disagree with you is because when I watched that, and I watched it a couple times, and it's why I wanted to talk about learning to trust in God. That's what I got out of it. Like, no matter how what you were faced with, like, that's quite the story. Like, you're on the cusp of death in extreme situations most of us will never face, and there was a couple of things about it. There was like a moment where you kind of settled in with the thought, okay, this is it. And then there was also the moment where, when that happened, you kind of got the miracle. The miracle came, St. Herman with the salmon. And in that moment, somehow that trust that you had with, for God came through for you. And I think that's something we overlook in our day-to-day lives with our struggles, our daily struggles, whatever they are. They're not comparable, but in many ways we forget that. We forget to just kind of like be still and know, to kind of just trust in God. Can I get you to talk a little bit about that, trusting in God, learning to trust in God, and how that works for you?
Yeah. He wants us to just let go of all these things, of our traumas, our pains, our issues, the things that we identify with that, form our personality. He wants us to let go of all this stuff. What I've learned over the course of my life is, and I've said this before, I don't believe in the idea of accepting God's will. I think that that's not an accurate way to describe it. Accepting God's will is a reluctance. There's a reluctance built into that. I'm reluctantly accepting His will, and I don't think that that's helpful. I really do believe that embracing His will and fully walking into it is what He's asking us, not just to begrudgingly say, "Okay, God, whatever," but actually say, "You know what? Your will is my will, even if it involves pain and suffering." That's my belief in that.
Oh, I really like that. Yeah, because it also requires action. It has that commitment to commit to that, and just go into the struggle, go into the difficult times, and kind of know that whatever the outcome is on the other side, it's God. It's what He wants. That's I really like what you just said there. That's going to get me thinking a lot. Justin, I really want to thank you for your time, for your love.
I got one more thing I got to say. Do you have time?
Of course I have time.
Okay. You're talking about do it yourself, and I have to get this off my chest.
Please.
So, yesterday, my wife and I spent the day in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
We went to Sun Recording Studio.
Okay. Yeah.
Sam Phillips.
Yeah.
I know some of you folks out there know this, but Sam Phillips was a massive do-it-yourself pioneer in the music industry. We went through and talked with the guy who did the tour there, and he gave a lot of tidbits about how Sam Phillips operated. And he was initially called Memphis Recording Company, and he would go around recording what he wanted to record regarding blues, which no one cared about at that time. And he would record other things to make money and so on. And eventually he started recording artists that he really liked. And so he created Sun Records. And that's how we have Johnny Cash, Elvis, Howlin' Wolf, and a bunch of other artists, Carl Perkins. And it was all because he just did not care what the conventions were of the time. He was going to do it the way he wanted to do it. There was a moment where he was recording the $1 Million Quartet. You know who that is, right? Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, Elvis, and Perkins. Yeah. And it was illegal because those people already had contracts with RCA and whatnot. They were actually not supposed to be recorded. And he said, "I don't care. I'm going to record this because this is very important." He taped that, and we have that now because he said, "I don't care what the conventions are," Absolutely. So that's just really hot on my heart right now because we were there yesterday and it was thoroughly inspiring. The room is the same. It has the same asbestos-filled, ceilings and tiles and everything.
Yes.
And the same microphone that all of those people recorded into is there. I mean, it was really something else. So I don't know. God bless Sam Phillips, who only died just not too long ago. God bless his soul.
Absolutely, God bless his soul. Yes. Oh no, I wasn't trying to rush you because I know you can stay as long as you want and tell me as many of those stories as you want. But I really appreciate that one. I'm a big fan of Sam Phillips, of course. Definitely a big pioneer. Even his slapback sound and how he played with that, like adjusted
that's right.
to the sound in the room, using one mic, gains high, setting everybody. Well, it's also cool because you could hear because we're used to like panning music left, right, and creating the soundscape that way. But because they couldn't do that, they actually created it with depth. So they position so of course they had Johnny kind of somewhere in the back because of that booming voice and all that, and Elvis kind of close to the middle. Oh, it's beautiful, man.
One take stuff. There's a great story behind Sam Phillips and the invention of distortion for a guitar. You probably know the story. The band was driving there to record at Sun Studios, and their amp fell off the top of the car, the roof rack, and it got messed up. And so when they showed up, they showed Sam Phillips the beat up amp, and the speaker was loose. And so what Sam Phillips did was he stuffed paper behind the speaker and plugged it in and made it work. And it made this bzz, bzz sound with the guitar. And he said, the other guys were like, that sounds really bad. And Sam Phillips was like, nah, let's go with it. And that's our first, according to, what I understand, that's the first recording of distorted guitar right there in that little room.
It's there's so many of those cool stories, especially like those kinds of studios in the South. They all had to like make do with nothing. And that kind of creates like magic. It creates like sonic magic, and I love those stories. Those are like some of my favorites, man. Do you have anything else you want to follow up with or plug anything? Because there's something I want to ask you. I want to know when the Art of Unseen Warfare is dropping.
Sure. We're still in the edit phase. My godmother is helping me edit this. She's a nun in Indianapolis, and she's the nun that I met when I found Orthodoxy. I don't know if you know the story, but she was the nun. And so she's helping me edit it. We're still in the process of editing. My hope is to have it out by late summer. I think that's the timeline. Yeah. But the book is actually written. Everything's done. So now it's just a matter of typos and weeding out all the heresies that I put in there.
Yeah, I'm sure you put in a lot of those. It's a great book. I've gone through it. It's I can't wait for that to go out. I think it's an important book and a very important subject, and well written, of course.
Thank you. I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Of course. Any final words before?
So that song you started off with, that song, my family's been listening to me play that song on acoustic guitar forever. For a long time. I love that song.
Me too, man. I haven't stopped playing it. And I'm going to continue. Yeah.
Amen. God bless you and your work, and God bless everybody in here. You all are good people.
Thank you so much, Justin. I really appreciate you. God bless you and your family. Have a safe trip and enjoy everything that you encounter along the way.
Thank you, brother.
Adios. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm pretty sure you did. That's definitely going to make some highlight reels there. A lot of important messages there, mostly. Yeah. What can I say? I am a fan of Justin Marler. Of course, you all know that. But it's the way he puts things that has impact for me and a lot of us. It's the simplicity of it. It's the honesty of it, and it's humble, and it just comes from from a really good place, and it does connect for us, for sure. I know a lot of you guys feel the same. I've heard a lot of messages you guys sent me about the book, Youth of the Apocalypse, Justin's story in general, and all that. Let's carry on. I'm going to play a song right now, kind of settle in to the new tech that we're using. It has jarred me a little bit, I'm not going to lie. I'm not on my regular game, but hey, who knows what'll come of it. All right, let's go with some Luxury, dear friends. One of my favorite Luxury songs.
The whole thing about DIY and why it's important to me and the connection we was trying to make with that stream is that, of course, Justin touches upon a lot of the key points, is basically not just like a punk thing. It's not just like an underground thing. It's something that I like to apply to my life, and people I have a lot of respect for do as well. And that is like the whole concept of DIY, do it yourself, is taking matters in your own hands, trying to look for solutions. It's a solutions-based thought process. If there's music you don't like, make your own. If there's print media you don't like, make your own. If there's a community you don't like, make your own. If there's, so on and so forth. Videos you don't like, movies you don't like, just make your own. Take matters into your own hands. I love that aspect of it. I also love the way that the creative process works when you do things DIY. There's something that flows through the creator that's applying a DIY concept that is really hard to wrap your mind around, because you put yourself in a space of vulnerability, I guess you would say. Within that space, you're confronted with honesty, like, why are you doing what you're doing? What is it that you're trying to achieve with this thing? What's the end goal? And to take it back to orthodoxy, I find that you see that prevalent with a lot of people that live a monastic life, ascetics, and try to take their own spiritual lives seriously and find ways to practice the faith. Of course, praxis is key. It's something I'm working on. I'm not very good at it, but I'm working on it. And when you look at the life of monks, you really clearly see it. And someone like Justin Marler, he went from a DIY mindset as a musician and young punk to a DIY mindset as a monk, to a DIY mindset of coming back to the world, living his life, doing his best to make it through, and taking matters in his own hands, both as in his career and his publishing company, his writings, his work in general, and you really see that coming through in the human being, in the person. Anyways, I've already said enough, but definitely this pop-in segment made a huge impact on me, and it will continue to do so. I hope it does for you as well. Tune into SOS Radio Sunday nights, the Study of Stuff podcast. We do a lot of great interviews. Check us out. And speaking of DIY, our zine, The Spoon Feed, is dropping. And by the time you watch this, it'll probably be out. You can get your own copy. Follow the link. Just a little thing about that zine. I most definitely want to give credit where credit is due. Highly inspired by Death to the World. Justin Marler had originally put out Death to the World, and now Father John Valadez is carrying on with Death to the World. So, respect. Thank you so much. Definitely inspired by, as well as old school punk zines from back in the day. We went back to, back in that subculture where what I'm trying to say is it's a community-driven zine. All the content in the zine is produced by people within our own community, let's call it, our audience members, people that, watch the show, engage with the show, contribute to the show. And that's something that's near and dear to my heart, because honestly, I had very little to do with it. Please check that out and, follow us for more DIY style content. You know what I mean? Rough, rugged, and raw. True, honest,